I see your TNA shirt, and I love TNA so much because when I would go back and watch TNA, Wednesday night pay-per-views for $10 a pop, 8 to 10 p.m. where I lived, and you are on the first ever NWA, when it was called NWA TNA pay-per-view. When you got the phone call to be on a show, are you aware of what the process and what's going to become of this show, or you just think it's a one shot, that's it?
No, we didn't think it was I didn't think it was a one shot. I knew that the idea was to continue on. But at that point, there's especially the year 2001, when WWF was the only game in town. So there was a lot of talk about some upstart companies, and I was part of some, but by the time this came around in 2002, at first it was just kind of like, okay, there's another upstart company and they're looking to do some things, and I know I was being looked at, but then hearing that Jeff Jarrett was involved and Jerry Jarrett was involved, and it just seemed like, and from what I have just seen in WCW, I knew that a lot of those people were involved as well. Going from production and just the directors and things like that. I knew that, hey, I mean, why take people from a WCW head start right there. So there was just a lot of different things about it, different talks where it was like, hey, we got the maybe have the right people involved in this, and so yeah, I mean, I was very hopeful for it, but yeah, we didn't know. I knew we all knew it was the concept was the weekly pay per view, so it was different. A lot of people don't like different. Hey, it'll never work. I mean, think of how many times we heard that about TNA. But yeah, they were just saying it wouldn't work, and it was just something different they wanted to try, because we didn't have TV. So this is another way of doing the weekly episodic television, and just do it on pay per view and have it just for a cheaper cost than what our normal monthly pay per views were. So, but I was very hopeful, man. I was excited. I was at that point in my career where I was ready to do something. I'd put some years in, and then I had my experience with WCW, so I just felt like I was ready to break. So, so very very excited about everything that was coming.
And it's amazing to see that TNA went from Impact to TNA is still around in today's world, because you brought up the first concept of weekly pay-per-views for wrestling company trying because you don't have TV. In today's world, every single wrestling company that is not WWE or TNA or AEW does exactly that. It's either monthly pay-per-views or you're part of a streaming platform. Like, it feels like TNA really had something going on before anyone even realized what the future was going to be. So kudos to Jeff Jarrett and his father for thinking like, oh, well, I think people will invest in this because, as you brought up, there was only one option. And boy, oh boy, people didn't like just having one option. So when TNA popped up, I immediately jumped on board. And one of the tag teams that jumped out to me was America's Most Wanted. You're one of the best tag teams of the past 30 years, in my personal opinion. And you're competing for the championship belt one week on the first show. Then they add you and James Storm together as a tag team. Who explains this to you? Because I know you were rivals as well, but also you put a tape together.
Yeah, so well, it goes back. We had people now call it our tryout match, but it was an event in Nashville where they were just kind of doing a test run for TNA, looking at some talent and getting production ready to go, and they were testing out the commentators, and so yeah, it was just kind of like a little run there. But I had been working in Nashville for a while. I knew Storm. We worked against each other, and yes, on the local area. Well, actually, they did have TV, but we were we had a feud. We were kind of going at it as opponents. But yeah, just to come in for that first show, that you kind of have to look at it like, of course, you want to build new stars, but you also have to have your
Right.
established talent. And I think that a lot of the focus was going into the established talent, which makes sense. So after Storm and I had our match on that event against each other, Jeff had told us, we'll be in touch with you. and so that was that helped right there. So I feel like that they knew they wanted us, they just weren't sure what to do with us. So I think Storm was in a kind of a random tag match on that first event, and then I was in the gauntlet for the gold. So it was just something to kind of introduce us to the audience. And but yeah, right from there, they told us, I think it was one of those where we don't know what to do with these guys, but we want to do something. So let's just put them together and see what happens. And that was one of the things. I mean, that's the way we were taught. Storm and I got together, and whenever the ball's kind of handed to you, you got to run with it. You got to run with what they give you. So whether we thought we might be single stars, this is what was handed to us. So we decided, okay, if they want to put us in a tag team, then we're going to be the best tag team that there is. And so that's what we did. We just got together and just everything we knew about tag team wrestling and what we had been taught and the art of the wrestling and just put all that into it. And you had kind of mentioned before, like nobody likes having just that one option with WWF. And I think one of the great things that happened with us is we got so much attention because um, at that time, and you could go back and look at this in the WWF, their tag team division just was just not good, and all they really had was they were taking two single stars, putting them together, and just kind of having a quick run with them, maybe with the titles, and then they split, feud with each other, and it's over. And it was that was the typical scene that you would see there. And you didn't have that art of tag team wrestling like you did in the 80s and early 90s. And that's what Storm and I came up on. That's what we loved and were taught, and so that's what we did. And it just started getting attention because people could actually see some really good tag team wrestling now. And yeah, we just ran with it, man, and just try to get better and get our name out there. And the company, they TNA, they liked what they saw, and they kept helping us push along.
Yeah, no, you brought up a great point about the tag teams as well, because in one company they weren't really doing anything, and if they had a tag team, it was, hey, you're the tag team, and that's it. You're the champions forever until two individuals get together, beat you, then you beat them, and then they fight each other, and you're back as the team. But you had chemistry with everybody, like the Naturals, Team 3D, the New Church, so many tag teams. But Triple X obviously is the moment I think everyone was like, wow, this is a moment that we can never erase from our brains. As Mankind was tossed off the Hell in the Cell, I will never forget the time that Elix Skipper walked across that cage and handed you a massive Hurricanrana off the top at Turning Point 2004. Now, explain to me who came up with this spot, because again, in wrestling, things can go wrong pretty easily. If he walked and fell off or crotched himself, it could have ended terribly for Elix Skipper. But describe to me the entire day and who actually greenlit this, because this is the spot that everyone needs to see. And if they haven't yet, go check it out.
Yeah. So a lot of people forget we had a cage match with those guys before. It was I don't know, maybe 15 months before. We had a four-sided cage match with them, and the match just was incredible. It was highly talked about. So this time around, we were doing a rematch, and it was six sides of steel. So right away, the idea was, God, how are we even going to try to top what we did before? And I'm not sure if that's the right strategy. I mean, you definitely want to go in, topping it, but you gotta consider the risk, and that move in particular, there was so much risk involved, a lot of room for error on that, and so yeah, it's just you get four heads together that know what they're doing, and had some great ideas in there, and a lot of people don't remember also like that the walking of the top rope was one of Elix Skipper's main moves. He would do that in all of his matches. He would walk the top rope and do the Hurricane Rana there. So it wasn't just kind of pulled out of left field. It was something that he had been doing, and so Elix being the crazy creative mind, he's thinking, what if I walk the cage? And And yeah, it sounds great, but I mean, good Lord, yeah, there's just so much that could go wrong. And so he brought it up to me, and it was that day. It was that day, and he brought it up, and um, just talking. I guess that's my instinct took over, and I was just like, man, I don't know. There's just so much that could go wrong, and so I mean, basically, I was saying let's do something else. Let's not do that. And he looks like okay, no problem. And so as the day goes on, um, I'd say I mean this is just a guess, but maybe a couple hours before bell time, um, I guess I had just started thinking about it, and like I said before, the instinct took in to be try to be smart about it, but then you just that adrenaline starts kicking, and you're thinking, man, what if something like that could get pulled off, and so I went back to Elix and I said, man, I said, can you do this? Can you really pull this off?